lot of you guys have asked me why I don't play Rainbow Six Siege. Bigfry, you're a tactical shooter content creator. Why don't you play Rainbow Six? And for those who don't know, obviously back in like 2015, Rainbow Six had a really rocky start. The servers were broken. I remember they were coming out of beta, going into launch, and the game was a goddamn disaster. And I remember once they started fixing those issues and getting into the actual competitiveness of the game, I actually really enjoyed it back in the early days. I would say vanilla, season 1, season 2, and then I found around season 3 is when they started to really lean into that hero operator ability instead of focusing on the gunplay. And for me, gunplay is everything. So let's talk about Rainbow Six Siege and what I hope to see from the franchise moving forward. But before we do, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Sierra 7. It is a mobile tactical shooter being made by SHD Games. Sierra 7 puts you in the boots of a tactical operator caught in the middle of a war. And basically what this game is like an on-rails tactical shooter where you can basically customize your loadouts, go into different missions, and there's a whole bunch of different missions. They're touting a 12+ hour campaign on this. And if you guys are seeing the style here, it reminds me of those old like mini clip addicting games, or I could see this being played on Newgrounds back in like the early 2000s. It's a very minimalist style, but it just works to the game's benefit. Looking at their page here on the Android app, it actually looks like they're from Canada as well, which I didn't realize. That's awesome. The game is free to play. It's one of those games where you can just play on the go. You can jump in, do a couple of missions, bang it out. All the missions are completely randomized in terms of like where the guys are coming from, so the firefights are different every single time. So yeah, big shout out to SHD Games for sponsoring this video. I appreciate it, guys. Your game is fantastic, and I would urge everybody who watches this video to go check it out. Now, let's talk about Rainbow Six. A lot of people were making a lot of noise during the initial Modern Warfare campaign hype with all of the night vision raids and stuff like that. And even me, I said this is like the Ghost Recon game that we really needed in 2019 after, you know, the disastrous launch of Breakpoint. And then I see this and I'm like, you know what? Thinking about it, you know, Rainbow Six has had a really good run as a multiplayer game, and even though I don't like it, I still respect the fact that the game is still incredibly successful. They still have one of the largest player bases in terms of like PC FPS. I'm impressed, and I'm not trying to take anything away from where Rainbow Six is. It's just, for me, they went in a direction that I didn't enjoy, so I just kind of stopped playing it. I know a lot of you guys want me to keep playing it. I actually had a sponsorship opportunity last month to go in and play Rainbow Six, and I don't know, I just don't enjoy the game, so that's one thing that I didn't want to do. I didn't want to make a video being like, yay, Rainbow Six, just to make money. It's just something I don't enjoy. But as I was thinking about these SWAT level missions and what a Rainbow Six game could actually bring out today, it got me thinking about Rainbow Six Patriots. If you guys don't know what Patriots was, it was a game that we basically saw the first kind of, I would say, proof of concept, or like a proof of idea that was made back in 2010. We initially saw that video in 2011. This project was being directed by David Sears, creative director from Zipper. He worked at Ubisoft. He now works at Compulsion Games. He had a vision for what Rainbow Six Patriots could have been. The plot was basically Team Rainbow. You go to New York City to deal with a terrorist group called the True Patriots, and they were your basic bad guy militia group. But when you were looking at the gameplay, or I should say the proof of concept of Rainbow Six Patriots, it definitely was a lot more gritty. The guy basically is like, he's in his house, they kidnap his wife, they kidnap his child, and they basically force him to go set off a bomb in Times Square. And seeing what they did with Call of Duty when the guy walked out and basically launched the bomb in Piccadilly, and also looking at the reception of the campaign, which from what I'm seeing is overwhelmingly positive. I think nowadays people are looking for a more gritty, I would say down to earth, a little bit more realistic storyline in these modern shooters. And I think Rainbow Six Patriots being scrapped in 2014 was obviously, it was ahead of its time. I think if that game were to come out now as a new Rainbow Six style game, I think the sell-through of that would be incredible. I think a lot of people are looking for that kind of experience. And then if you put on a full-fledged multiplayer game mode that's not so necessarily based on heroes, but based on loadouts and tactics and really good map design, set in modern, set in the streets of New York, man, you would be looking at an absolute banger. And it's unfortunate because I do have a lot of respect for David Sears, being as he was originally working on the SOCOM games, the ones I love so much. So I wanted to see him thrive in this tactical shooter space, but unfortunately it got scrapped. I personally think a Rainbow Six style game coming out nowadays. Now, obviously we have games like Ready or Not, which are focusing more on like the slow-paced SWAT style. Rainbow Six has always been a combination of a little bit of arcade, a little bit of tactic, a little bit of realistic. I wouldn't call it a milsim by any stretch. And I think even the gameplay or the proof of concept that they're showing in the Rainbow Six Patriots announcement, I think that's even a little bit more arcadey. It's got third-person and first-person mechanics, and they're kind of jumping around. It actually reminds me, looking at that gameplay, looking at that video, it reminds me of like what you would say a proof of concept would be for The Division. If you guys remember when they first announced The Division, it was like the guy was like, they were in a firefight and he like moved the door to the taxi as he was shooting. And then obviously like there's a lot of similarities between what we're seeing in Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Patriots and games like The Division. Games like Rainbow Six Siege, which, you know, I actually think that this was the reason why Siege launched the way it did, because it didn't have the development time that it should have had, because they had all of these years from 2010 to 2014 to make Patriots, and then it was just scrapped with Siege coming out a year later. So they probably took some of the things from Patriots and turned it into what was inevitably Rainbow Six Siege. And it's funny, like watching this trailer back, I haven't watched it in a few years, but there's one part where there's a guy literally strapped to a bomb in the middle of this bridge, and they have to make the decision to throw him over the edge into the water and basically sacrifice one person to save a whole bunch of others. And they literally did the same thing in Call of Duty Modern Warfare, like the exact same plot. Guy strapped to a bomb and there's a bunch of people around him. Price throws him over the edge. Obviously spoilers if you guys haven't played it yet. Throws him over the edge to defend everybody. I think the world is ready for these kind of games. Now, I don't know what the state of the game was when Ubisoft decided to scrap it, but in terms of topical ideas for games, Ubisoft is actually making all of their studios come up with super unique game pitches. So basically, reading this headline, they're changing their mentality big time in the wake of Ghost Recon Breakpoint sales flops. This is something that we haven't covered yet on the channel. Ubisoft is now going to all of their developers and is just like, hey, what makes this game unique? What separates it from the pack, from everything else that we have on our franchise, everything else that's in the market right now? And they're looking for unique experiences. And I personally think that a real gritty, visceral Rainbow Six single-player campaign and a multiplayer to go along with it could be incredible. Especially now, you know, Rainbow Six Siege is going on 5 years old. I think now would be a time to really revisit that and go for that complete game experience. And obviously the reception to Call of Duty's night vision raids, the Into the Den or the Wolves Den and the Clean House missions, people want that kind of gameplay. Like in terms of single player stuff, people want that slow, methodical, tactical, team-based gameplay. If you were to take that, make it co-op, and then put a 12-hour storyline around this militia group, and oh my god, dude, you would change the game for FPS. And the thing is this isn't anything new. This is just something that we haven't seen in a long time, and this is just my opinion here. I really think Ubisoft needs to dial back on what they've been doing to the Tom Clancy name, and I think they need to bring it back to that more gritty, that more realistic, the more storyline-based gameplay that they haven't really done in a long time. And just watching this announcement trailer for Patriots, seeing the old Ubisoft logo, this was a time before Ubisoft decided to go this games as a service, online, multiplayer, looter shooter. They got away from themselves. And I really think that if they were to bring a new Rainbow Six back, if they did this and went with this idea, I think they'd have a winner. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. There's not a lot of news to talk about right now, but I wanted to talk about something shooter related that isn't just talking about red dot chasers in Call of Duty. If you guys enjoy the content, make sure you like the video, share it on social media, share it in your Discord, and if you guys are subscribed to the channel, make sure you tap that bell. And if you don't want to tap the bell, maybe download the Zing app. That lets you know every time I upload a video. It's a little notification app that a bunch of YouTubers are jumping into now, and it's bypassing YouTube's terrible terrible notification system. Thank you guys again. My name is Bigfry, and I'll see you on the next one.